So, the topic today is about how to bring young people towards Deen. But although that's the topic, I want to discuss it within a particular context, and that context is not bringing people. Generally, when you say so, when I have this conversation with people, everybody talks to me about how people are going away from the Deen, and what they mean is people are becoming less practicing. Right? They're not coming to the masjid, they're not praying, they're not doing things like that. Although that's all important, that's not the context of my conversation. That's not why I'm here. I ask the people, and I ask for this book. So the context of my conversation is not that people are leaving Deen as in people are leaving Deen as in they are becoming less practicing or they're committing sins. The context of my conversation, this conversation, is people are leaving Deen as in they are actually becoming non-Muslims. So when I talk about bringing young people to the Deen, or how to bring young people to the Deen, that's the topic on the poster. I'm talking about how to bring young people into the Deen when they've left. Okay, so I just want to frame it in that way. That's why some things may or maybe not, maybe it's sensitive. Anyway, so I've been given permission to start. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور انفسنا وسيئات اعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد ان لا اله الا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد ان سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله تعالى عليه وعلى اله واصحابه وسلم تسليما كثيرا اما بعد. So obviously I spoke about this in my broken record on Friday. And some of our anything said something. And he gave me an idea. I think what he said, what he raised then, I'm going to address that first. And after I finished doing my talk for about 20-25 minutes, he said to me, why are you speaking so much about the negatives? Why are you talking about the positives? So I said to him, well, we'll talk about this on Sunday. Okay? But lately, as I've been talking about this stuff, it can come across as though I'm talking about the negatives. You'll see what I mean as I speak. Because I'm going to start by throwing a disclaimer. This is not supposed to be a rosy talk. People like hearing stories about how many people are becoming Muslim and how Islam is the fastest growing religion and how we're wonderful and etc. Patting ourselves on the back and telling ourselves how wonderful things are not going to solve any of our problems. Right? If you've got a troublesome child in your family, telling the whole world how wonderful your family is not going to get your child out of trouble. You understand? It's just gonna it's just gonna make you feel better, all right? Or it's just an act of concealment. I'm worried about what people are gonna say, so therefore I'm gonna do a bit of personal PR and marketing and tell people that my family is the best thing since sliced bread, right? So sometimes, when there are problems in society, when there's problems in the ummah, when there's problems, then those problems have to be solved. And in order to solve them, there has to be awareness of them, especially if they are widespread. And to have awareness of problems, they have to be talked about, which means conversations can sometimes be quite negative. At the reverse end, of course, there needs to be positive messages. What I mean by positive messages is not public relations messages, marketing messages, how wonderful things are, but rather positive messages that encourage people towards the Deen. That kind of positive messages. However, the reason why there's going to be some focus on the negative in this talk, followed by perhaps some solutions. So I'm going to be focusing on problems, then maybe talk a little bit about solutions. The reason is because this particular problem isn't being talked about a lot. Right? So from my point of view, My colleagues, other imams, other ulama, they're doing the positives. They're talking about the positive stuff a lot, plenty. You know, how wonderful it's going to be in Jannah, and how Islam is a great deen, and how there's benefits to being Muslim. I take all of those things for granted. Everybody that's sitting here that practices the deen knows those things. And most likely, almost everyone here, and the majority of people who are listening on, who are watching or listening online right now, probably aren't suffering a crisis of Iman. I wouldn't guarantee it. I wouldn't guarantee it. The last time I did a talk, somebody was sitting in the talk who had left the deen. And that's the most recent talk that I did. The last course that I taught, I had a 16-year-old sitting in there who was born and brought up a Muslim, but an atheist, but was attending my course, right? Because his mum had paid for it. So I can't guarantee, but I can guarantee that the vast majority who will be watching this or listening to this will be Muslims, practicing Muslims. So why am I talking to them about these things? Well, because we are part of the solution. People who practice the deen are part of the solution, number one. Number two, people who practice the deen are of two types. Number one are those who practice the deen and know why they practice the deen, and they are educated about the deen and know why the deen is true. Right? Whether or not they've considered an alternative or not is somewhat irrelevant. Meaning that if somebody is a convert and has looked into 2 or 3 different religions and has chosen Islam, then they know why they've accepted Islam. And they've considered other alternatives. Right? As opposed to somebody who is born a Muslim and is committed. They practice the deen, they pray, they avoid sins, etc. And they're committed to their self-development, to their spiritual development, to every day trying to become a better person. They're committed to striving for Jannah, but they haven't thought much about the alternative. What's really interesting about the Islamic tradition is that the ulama have discussed people like that. And I've asked them what I find an astonishing question. Is that person's Iman valid? If they haven't considered why they believe. And they eventually came to the conclusion this person's Iman is valid in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because they are committed. But the person who has Iman and knows why they have Iman, they believe Islam is true, they believe the Prophet ﷺ is a true messenger of Allah, and they know why Islam is true, and why the messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam is the true prophet of Allah, their Iman is afdal, their Iman is better, it's more virtuous. Right? Meaning that blind faith is valid, but not a virtue. It's valid, but it's not a virtue. However, the